Welcome to the Seize the Day weekly podcast, your connection to all things cruising, powered by Travel with Brigitte.
I'm Julie Williams, along with Carla Mesa on the Seize the Day cruise show, powered by Travel with Brigitte. We're glad to have you along. Remember, this is your show, so feel free to leave comments and questions anytime you want to. Today, we're going to talk about those onboard surprises, those potentially unexpected expenses that might come up that, well, it wouldn't hurt you to budget for. So we've got a whole handful of them for you. And Carla, what would you say is something that stands out to you as something that might surprise one of your travel customers on a cruise ship?
Well, I would say first and foremost, even actually before getting on the cruise ship, but just kind of budgeting when you're looking at prices, per person price, is not everyone thinks about or includes the gratuities that you automatically should be adding to your per person price when you set your cruise. But sometimes there is a mind state of people will have, and they will say, oh, well, I'll just take care of it once I'm on board. I'd rather give it to the person, right then and there, or leave it in my cabin at the end of the week. But I would say it's usually best practice to do your automatic gratuities when you're booking the cruise. There are a lot of other people involved that are, helping out, whether with your stateroom or your deck, or, in the kitchen, in the buffet, the pool. And, you're not going to hand everyone a tip that you may not even know was actually a part of your experience. So that's definitely one of those charges that people don't really think about, because it is a per person charge. So, you may have a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old with you, and you're maybe just thinking about you and the other adults, but it is a per person cost.
Yes, they will charge you for every person in the room, no matter how old they are. One of the things I think about when I think about gratuities is, let's say you've done the prepaid gratuities, so you think, I don't have to worry about gratuities now, but then you get on board and you buy a drink at the bar, right? And you might think, oh, what should I tip, like $2 or something? So you give them a tip. But when you buy something on board, chances are, and there's nothing that we're going to talk about today is 100%, okay? But chances are, included in that charge that's going to go to your room will be a gratuity. So you've just tipped twice for that drink that you decided to get while you went to the bar.
Yes, I would definitely be aware and pay attention to the details on your charges, just because, people have different packages. Someone is going to go up to the bar and have to pay for their drink, and someone else isn't. So sometimes that's included, sometimes it isn't. It's just very specific to the cruise line. It could even be just very specific to the certain bar you walked up to. That might not be the case at the casino bar, or vice versa. Might be the case in the casino bar, but not when you get your drink at the theater.
Yes, and also when you're, if you have a drinks package and you go up to the bar and you order a drink and you're not paying for it, right? But they're tracking it because you get 15 drinks a day or something.
Usually, yeah.
Which usually, if you're really overdoing that, then you need that drinks package, right? Yeah. But with the drinks package, I don't know if they add a gratuity on your bill for every drink you take, or is that maybe included in what you paid for the drinks package? Or are you just needing to pay them in person? You see, all of these things, these are questions that you're going to need to ask, and they may vary by cruise line. So to me, that is what I think of as probably the biggest surprise that I've seen people come up with. And the biggest mistake I've seen people make, where it was being charged to their card, and yet they're tipping every single time they get a drink.
Yeah, so you definitely just have to pay attention to what you're getting on that receipt. And I would say that usually with a drink package, I would say that that's kind of included. Of course, if you're having, a great experience, or, out of your drinks are spectacular at this certain bar, this is where you continue, then yes, of course, that's all dependent on you. But standard, I would say that that's included in there. But that alone, sometimes that's another good one. Sometimes people don't realize when they're thinking cruise, they're thinking all inclusive, but it is kind of a nitpicking all inclusive that the cruise lines do. So sometimes that's even one, a drinks package and specialty dining. There are certain options on the ship that aren't technically included, and you do have to then pay out of pocket for them right then and there. So
I think it's commonly known now, at least in my circles, but there are a lot of people who've never cruised before. It's become more popular than when I started in 1987. I think hardly anybody, no one I knew had ever been on a cruise. I did it for my honeymoon, but it was kind of like a unreachable thing, But nowadays, I think people understand that specialty restaurants cost more. But the first time I was on a cruise ship that had specialty restaurant that I went to, I didn't realize I was going to have to pay more for it because I had never been on a cruise where they had restaurants that you had to pay more for.
Right. Yeah. So I would say the same, that, some experienced cruisers, that's definitely, they know about it, and there are plenty of other options on the ship that if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But yeah, it's first timer, haven't been on one since, in 10 years or before COVID. And, there's a lot of revamping going on. Those options are now, before you may go on a ship and they may have one or two. Now they have 3, 4, or 5. Yes. So it's becoming something that, you definitely need to be a little bit more aware about.
Yeah. And then there's also the alcoholic beverages that we were talking about that. A lot of people, they think all inclusive, right? Because these all inclusive destination places a lot of times include all the alcohol you want. And a cruise is what I consider all inclusive. Your food, you don't have to spend anything on the cruise.
Right.
And so some people may think that the alcoholic beverages, they don't have a package and they think they're going to have a drink and that they don't pay for it. And then they get a surprise when the bill comes. So we need to make sure, I think you have to request this, Carla. You tell me, you're the travel agent. You have to request that they give you a statement each night, or is that standard? I don't remember.
If you want one, yes, you definitely have to request that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not standard.
So what else can you think of besides?
So even adding to the alcohol, so even soft drinks, specialty coffees, maybe health drinks, freshly squeezed juices, smoothies. Sometimes that as well. They'll have the options there, but more than likely it isn't actually included. It's going to be an extra cost if that's the decision choice you're making.
And sometimes if you have a package which would be like the beverage package that may or may not include the alcohol, you can get the soda and specialty coffee, get your lattes and all that kind of stuff. A lot of times now, not all cruise lines, but some of them are making it where you can get as much as you want fountain soda, but you can't get the cans.
Right.
So a lot of them still have the bottled water. You could grab some bottles of water before you get off the ship. But a lot of them will make you pay for that can of soda that you want to take with you.
Yes, that's definitely a good one. Good one to point out. That's little changes that are happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's with travel anywhere.
Yeah. Another really good one is, most of us go on vacation to, kind of disconnect, reset, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we expect to be cut off from the world. But if you're not purchasing a Wi-Fi package, that's exactly what's going to happen. So that is an extra cost. If you still need to have access to your cell phone data plan, you will have to purchase an additional Wi-Fi plan. And that's depending, there are different packages. It's either one device or you upgrade to a package that will have anywhere from like 2 to 4 devices. And that does usually go by stateroom as well.
Right. And I'm not sure about this, but I know if you have two devices, you can log out of one and into the other, but what a pain, right?
Yeah.
But like, if you and I were sharing a stateroom, would we both have to get the internet package? Like, that's the way it is with the alcohol package and some other things.
Yes. So unless you upgrade, like I said, the packages are usually like the baseline is just one device, and then it'll move up to either maybe two devices or 2 to 3 or 2 to 4. And that usually is per stateroom. So say, we upgrade to the 2 to 4 package and we each have our cell phones, but I also have a laptop and you have an iPad or something. So that can work for the room.
Mm-hmm. Now, traditionally, Wi-Fi on cruise ships is known as pretty bad. Right. I know I went on an Alaskan cruise, and again, 15 years ago. OK, and we went on the Inside Passage and we had no internet. And they said we were surrounded by mountains. So it was like, I guess an FM type thing, line of sight or something. Mm-hmm. But of course, this is 15 years later. And there's also Starlink, which I think most cruise lines have now. What is the state of the quality of internet? Because I know Dan, our owner at Travel with Brigitte, he works full time, and sometimes he works full time on a cruise ship with the Wi-Fi, and he does fine.
Most cruise lines do have Starlink now. Yeah. I almost want to say all of them. But they all have some sort of Wi-Fi, majority of them being Starlink. And it is a lot better. It is a lot better now than before. But there are also tiers to the Wi-Fi packages. So you can have like a basic plan and you'll be able to still like message and I think mainly kind of like message and like do internet surfing, but you won't be able to do like any video calls or streaming. So you have to actually upgrade to have more internet access, to have that, better connection. So you have those options on whether or not you're just trying to keep in touch with, the babysitter at home, or you're needing to work full time on the cruise ship. So they do have those options. At least you can pick and choose what works best for you.
What about the people who, let's say, have and again, I'm not a tech person, okay, but they have a Starlink like device, and I want to take it with them because they already have Starlink. Are they allowed to do that, or would that work?
I don't believe so. I don't believe it'll work the same on the cruise ship. And it may be even like an item that they're just not allowing you to bring. I do believe that might just fall into that list where it's just one of those pieces of, I wouldn't say like electrical equipment, but it's, even like bringing like a certain hairdryer or something, the voltage might be too much, or, they have different rules around what you can actually bring in and plug in,
But I've heard that that with Starlink now, people have internet service transatlantic, which that's unheard of. It used to be unheard of. You're like smack in the middle between like Europe and America, and you've got, full Wi-Fi. That's pretty amazing. Where else would you say people get surprises?
One thing I would say as well is any shore activities, any, port day activities. Sometimes your focus is just so much on the actual cruise and all the activities you can do on the ship that you don't think about planning for actual port days and none of that is included, food, drinks, excursions, souvenirs, like that has nothing to do with the price you paid for the actual cruise. So that's something that, sometimes maybe a month or two before it kind of clicks like, oh, what are we going to do on 3 to 4 of our 7 days that we're spending on this cruise? We don't actually have plans for that. So that is an extra expense that we like to talk about early on so that it's not too much of a surprise. But sometimes that can be, the whole other half of the vacation that you're planning, depending on how many things you want to do.
Right. And they can be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And they can also sell out.
Yes, that's a good point. Depending on how you book it as well will depend on the cost, because if you're doing this last minute or you're doing this through the cruise line, those prices are definitely much higher.
Yeah. Now, if you do it through the cruise line, you're going to pay sometimes 40 to 50% more. Yes. But if you just look on your own for a cruise company, a tour company, you could get scammed. Okay. So go through your travel agent and have your travel agent. It won't cost you any more. Have your travel agent book with a tour company he or she knows is legit. And what ends up happening is, there's a line of, say, 20 people at this preserve or wherever you're going, and they're waiting to get in. And those are the excursion people, right? And then your little group of 10 or 5 that booked through the company that the travel agent helped pick for you, right? You guys get in and you can spend as much time here and there as you want. Whereas the others are kind of like, okay, let's wait here. Okay, let's come in. Okay, we've only got 5 minutes on this part. You know what I mean? So you actually have a lot more freedom. You don't have these long lines to wait in. And often you have a little bit more comfortable than a tour bus to take you to the place. You're just going to get the attention of a smaller group, and you're going to pay half as much as those people who are waiting in line. So I always recommend that you ask your travel agent about a good tour company that they can book the exact same tour. If you see one on the cruise line that you want to do the exact same tour for half the price. And but just make sure you go through the cruise line, because there have been people who have been scammed big time by doing it on their own. And if your travel agent doesn't know a company, ask them to find one.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good point as well. We, doing extra research on finding out what other options you have. The cruise line may give you, option A, B, and C. And you're kind of like, okay, I guess that's all there is to do, when that may not be the case. It's just, the companies or the certain tours that they have vetted, and that's all they represent.
Right. Right. So what else would you see as, I'm trying to think about an unexpected onboard surprise, not
so
like
going back to being on the ship again, speaking of maybe, your ski days or port days, if you decide to stay on the ship instead, there are some other items like the spa or different fitness classes. Those usually are not included. They are there on the ship for you, but those are all individually priced as well. So if that's something you're looking forward to, like can't wait to check out the spa, make sure you're budgeting for that as well. I would say that the prices are, probably on par with like a higher tier or luxury hotel. It's not going to be, massage envy prices.
No,
for sure.
No. Get your nails done before you go. Believe me, I've not done that before, and it's quite expensive.
Yes, definitely is. I've made that mistake as well sometimes, getting not, like you said, not getting my pedicure in time or something, and I'm paying double what I would, and it lasts much less time.
Right.
But there are certain things that are definitely worth it.
Though the gym is almost always free. And
yes, the gym itself, yes.
So, they have all the fitness equipment and stuff that you could need. But, if you do stuff like I made the mistake of not getting my nails done before I went, I was kind of running out of time. I won't run out of time again. It's very expensive to get that done. I had my teeth whitened on a cruise ship. That was like $300. I had my hair done one time, just done up and styled for the formal night. Mm-hmm. That was expensive. And it was like, for my roommate and I, we had dinner together every night. I didn't mean to like get all dressed up for her. I was dressed up for the fancy night, and I didn't need to spend $150 to get all fancy for a fancy night, for a lady I've known for 40 years that happens to be my roommate. There's like nobody I have to impress. Right.
Right.
But the one thing is that sometimes in packages, like say the Princess Plus or another package, or we do a lot of group cruises here at Travel with Brigitte. And sometimes there are always perks included in those. And sometimes it could be a couple of free exercise classes. But another thing to remember is that you have to book those ahead of time because they do sell out. And so you definitely want to get on the registration list immediately for certain exercise classes.
Definitely. You mentioned formal night. I will say as well, all the photos, the professional photos that get taken. You might not even think about it beforehand, especially if you haven't cruised in a while. But then once you see them and you see how beautiful your whole family dressed up for that night, and you're like, oh, that's a really nice memento. And they really are. They're great photos. They have great photographers on board, but that's definitely another cost that you just might not think about at all. Especially if you're going to get more than one, or you're going to do, get more than one night's worth as well.
Yeah, and it's not cheap. In fact, even on excursions, I went on this one excursion where you go down 20 feet in the water, and you've got this helmet to breathe with that looks like something out of a space suit or something, and you walk along this area. I mean, but it was kind of cool because we're walking down underneath and able to breathe and they took a bunch of pictures along the way, but you couldn't buy one. You had to buy all of them.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't get it because we're like, don't need all these pictures. But the photos taken by the photographers are usually very, very good. But they're not cheap.
Quality. Yes.
But the one thing is, I think they will allow you to buy just 1 8x10 of something.
Yes, on the ship, definitely. They have packages, but you can definitely buy one individual photo.
And usually when you buy a package or you buy something, they include, it was a CD. Now it might be, electronically send it to you, but you end up getting electronic files of
yes, or the digital copy itself. Yes, that is a very, very nice perk.
So that can save you money over packages.
Sure. Okay. All right. I would say what's some more? Something a little different now that I think wasn't really charged before is room service.
Right. It was just tips before.
Mm-hmm. But now, it's depending on a few things. Sometimes it's depending on the time, and then sometimes it's dependent on the actual items, how they'll price them. And one thing I noticed for sure is usually in the evening or later at night, they'll have just an automatic extra charge because it's later at night.
Yes, so. And most of them, I believe, still have free continental breakfast. They'll bring you your coffee in the morning and maybe fruit and English muffin or bagel or something like that. But I don't know that all of them do. And then it depends on. I was in a suite, and at that suite level, we got the free room service 24/7. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the cruise line itself, for most people in the lower levels, which would be probably mini suite and cheaper, they, except for the morning breakfast thing, would have to pay anytime they got room service.
Yes, that's a really good point. This is all dependent on your class level of room. Because the higher class level, you may have some of these things included. They may not be extra things that you have to budget for. So it is very dependent on that. That's a good point.
Yeah, and loyalty levels, if you cruise a lot with one cruise line or one cruise company that owns a couple of different lines that might kind of combine your points, if you call it that. Oh, you know what I think of is laundry and dry cleaning. Some people think it's worth it to pay $30 a bag for dry cleaning or rather for laundry. Mm-hmm. And they get their laundry, but they have to have it out by a certain time. And then it comes back later that night folded or pressed or, whatever. And then you can bring half the amount of clothes. But some lines to the best of my knowledge, Royal Caribbean does not have this. At least the ship Harmony of the Seas doesn't. But Princess has laundry mats on the ship. And so I bring half the clothes I don't mind doing laundry. And even in there, we can't bring an iron with us on the cruise ship, but they'll have an iron and an ironing board and a few washers and a few dryers. And you can even buy laundry soap there. Although I bring laundry soap sheets that they look like, regular dryer sheets that they bring to washer. So handy to have, and then you're not paying $3 for a little box of something.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. Some people don't even realize that that's an option that they have on board. And I'm the type of person where I won't necessarily bring half the amount of clothes, but I would rather go home with all my clothes clean already than getting home with a bag full of dirty clothes that I'm like, okay, great. I just got back from vacation. Now I have to do laundry. If that means sometimes that cost is all right with me.
Surprisingly, when I've used the Princess laundromat like twice in a week cruise, I've found that there's really not a long wait. I mean, there was always a machine available, and they only had 3 or 4 of each kind, but there was always one available. And so that was a little bit unexpected for me, but I guess a lot of people don't know about it, don't think about it, or don't want to do laundry on their vacation.
Yeah, I think it's a good combination of the 3 for sure.
But a lot of times I end up wearing the same clothes over and over again, the same shorts, the same few shirts, so it's very handy to bring quarters, or they might be tokens, or they might be dollar bills, or they might charge it to your card. I don't remember how it was on Princess, and that was like 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. The phrase happened. So I wouldn't doubt it if you can even just pay on your card now, or especially with Princess, everything is on the medallion. So,
oh, that's right. You walk up to it, you might pay for someone else's laundry. I'm just kidding. I'm sure you don't have to do that. Just like when you walk by somebody's room, your medallion doesn't. I go like this because I was just
open, right?
It doesn't open the neighbor's door. So yeah.
One thing as well, if you're not savvy enough to have travel insurance, you may have some unexpected medical costs that could come up either on the ship or at the ports, depending on what anything that happened. And depending on, different things you may have planned for port days. But that's definitely something most people don't think about because they don't expect anything bad to happen. But it could. It's happening more often than not. I'm sure there's probably a scenario on every single cruise ship where someone is going to have some kind of issue. And so that's something that if you're planning to budget for, I would recommend getting travel insurance. That's how we budget for these medical costs.
And get it through your travel agent, because if you buy it from the cruise ship, then it doesn't cover everything you think, and you're going to pay more.
Correct. And more than likely, it won't cover port days as well, or at least, activities off the ship.
Like I know with Travel with Brigitte, we use like 1 or 2 insurance companies that have been proven. And I'm not the travel agent. That's Carla. But I just have been around long enough. There's like 1 or 2 that has been approved because they pay out when they need to. They're reasonable. They cover what they need to and stuff like that. So definitely don't go look for the cheapest thing on your own, and don't book it through the cruise line. Go to your travel agent, because the travel agent works for you for free. And they know a lot more than you do. And any mistake that you could make, they know somebody who already made it. So,
and I want to add to the travel insurance is that we do work, just very similar to, getting like car insurance. We're going to call 2, 3, 4, 5 different places and see what works best for you. We work and have partnerships with a few different insurances, but we're not necessarily only going to sell or give you a quote for this one company. There are a few out there. They all have different perks, different coverages, different prices. So it's definitely, a process of figuring out what works best for you.
And another thing to consider is like, even if you were to go to the medical services, the clinic, for an aspirin, it's going to cost you money. Okay.
Yes.
So bring any over-the-counter things that you might need. For example, always bring something just in case you get seasick, which I really don't, but occasionally something might happen. Like there's a hurricane out there and we're not affected, but boy, are we affected. You know what I mean? Right. So always have something for that, have something for maybe a headache, allergy pill if you have allergies. And then there's always, in case you get some kind of a virus, anti-diarrhea medication, just a little bit of a first aid kit.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to go to medical services if it's something that you wouldn't go to the doctor for at home.
Right.
You don't have to go because you can't buy a lot of those things on board. And if you can, do you want to pay $10 for Tylenol?
Yeah, exactly. Those things. You're going to go pay $10 for one Advil.
That's right. And we laugh, but it's really not.
But it's true.
Yeah. And then watch out for the gambling. I mean,
yeah, just opposite end of the spectrum, right? Going in and wanting to have that fun, but
nowadays, like even at a lot of casinos, you might have like a player card or something. You stick the card in and then you just play and play and play. I mean, you have no idea how much money you're putting in there.
Yeah, they make it very, very easy for you.
Yeah, so just, definitely be careful with that one.
Some other, sometimes when they have like bingo or game tournaments as well, like other type of, not necessarily gambling in the casino, but other events like that, sometimes you do have to do like a buy-in and stuff as well. So that's not always free. Usually like the trivias and like the different kind of activities those types of activities usually are, but some more of like the actual like high stakes, like tournaments and stuff, you will have to buy in.
Yeah. And bingo, you're usually going to pay by the card.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can sit and watch if you want, but what fun is that? Right.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know how much you'd pay. I haven't played bingo on a ship for a long time, but we would go with huge groups. Brigitte would get groups of like 30 of us together, and it was fabulous. We would have so much fun. And, we would do that. And then another one they had is horse races. And we had these, the wooden horses that you play with. And we bought the horse, and then people invested in the horse like a regular horse race. So we were buying in because we bought the horse. Okay. 2 people bought the horse, and then other people had stock in the horse. And I think they sold the stock for like $10 each. Right. And that went to the people who bought the horse. Right. But then we won the horse race, which they would roll the dice and the horses would go in a race to see who would get to the front. And so, I think I made like $100 or something for my $10 buy-in there. But they made more like $400 each from prizes and stuff like that. But again, there was a buy-in. And just like I don't remember how much it was, but for a slot tournament I was in one time, I think we paid like 25 each or 50 each to get into the slot tournament. And then there was a big cash payout to one person. So, with things like that, if there's going to be a cash prize, there's probably going to be money to buy in. Speaking of money, oh my goodness, have you gone into those art auctions?
Yeah.
I got caught up in there once, and I know someone else did too. I overspent, and the bottom line is I have a friend who was going to buy a $30,000 piece of art. It was like it looked kind of like a glass sculpture type thing.
Okay.
And she got on with her husband to talk about it, and they had the money. She can buy it. But she's like, should I get this? Shouldn't I? He did some searching, and the exact same thing you could get for $10,000 somewhere else. Now, most of us aren't looking at $30,000 and $10,000 pieces of art. I understand. But a lot of these things are, available on every cruise ship. They're not really special at all, and they'll be overpriced. So, sometimes they give you champagne. It might be fun to bid at an auction, but be careful at those art auctions because...
Yeah, I would definitely say it's more about the experience. And in general, with an auction, especially art, starting price is usually what it's valued at. And then once you go over that, you're just you're just betting to win.
And they package them together and you get a better deal that way. And a lot of times they'll package like the same artist, or they watch you and you're asking questions and you're looking at this one and that one. And all of a sudden there's a package that has this one and that one and something else in it. Right. And I got caught up in that. I don't know if I should confess this. I spent $10,000. Now it's 100%. No, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. It is refundable. I think even by law, like up to 10 days or something like that. So when I got home, I did cancel it, but they had a $1,000, a 10% cancellation fee.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up buying one of the paintings with the $1,000 that I was either going to be giving them to cancel or I was going to be buying something with. Right.
Right.
So you can get some of it back. But I couldn't get all of it back. And I don't mind. I mean, that was, about 8 years ago or something. I still have the painting hanging in my living room and I really like the painting. I would not have paid $1,000 for it, but I did. You just kind of get wrapped up in the moment. So you gotta watch for that.
Definitely. Yeah. I know some people say, oh, let's just go for fun. That may not be the case.
That's right. I was just going for fun. I was going because some of the pictures there were really, really cool paintings.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because they have everything up already from the beginning and you may pass by a few times. And usually the auction is not through the last bid, but maybe last 2 or 3 days.
And there's some very, very unique paintings that I just absolutely loved and I wouldn't mind having. But then you look and think, am I paying like, I don't know, $400 a month for this, and I don't even have enough walls to put it all on,
That's a good point. That's a big souvenir to take when, all the small souvenirs that you may not plan for on port days, when you start thinking about nieces and nephews and maybe coworkers, and you're like, oh, I need to get all these magnets. Like that's another expense people don't think about as well.
Yeah. And when you're looking, souvenir shopping, a lot of times they'll have like sale days and they'll have like kiosks all around the area where they have the stores. And all those stores, by the way, and kiosks are rented. They're not owned by the cruise line.
Mm-hmm, right.
So there can be problems and the cruise line really can't help you with if there's an issue. But I do want to caution you that the gold by the inch, I don't care what they say, it's going to turn very, very quickly. Okay. Again, bought it. Been there, done that. And it turned like, your arm, your neck turns green very, very shortly after. So you can't tell me that's real, not even gold plated,
Right. Yeah.
So
That's terrible.
Don't fall for that. Although, I think most cruise lines have several I've been on, and it might have just been Princess each time, but several cruise lines I've been on have had this day towards the end where they have like a $10 sale. And you go into this big room and things are laid out on tables and they have watches and they have T-shirts and they have all things. And sometimes they'll have, this is like their closeout, if you want to say. Like I've been in the Caribbean and seen Alaska sweatshirts, so
okay.
Princess Alaska or whatever. But I've also gone and gotten really nice, fancy, sparkling purses for the final night or, the final formal night. So I usually do go. And that's where I recommend you do the souvenir shopping if you're going to be buying something on board, to get to that day. And usually it's for like 3 hours or 4 hours on an afternoon. They'll have it.
Yeah, it's usually a short period. So you do have to kind of like plan around it. That's why I almost never make it to that. Cause I'm just like, I don't need anything. And short time frame. It's not like I can just walk in whenever I feel like it. So,
but I've found some good gifts, like Christmas gifts and stuff. And because I'll buy those things all day long. Yeah. And so, I've gone in there and spent $30. Compare that to the art auction, right?
Yeah.
But I've gone in there thinking I really don't need anything. Let me just look. But I walk out $30 later, but I've got a really nice purse for that night, and I've got a couple of Christmas gifts. So I would definitely say check out that $10 souvenir day.
Yeah, that's a very great tip. If your cruise line, your ship is going to have that. What else? There's a few other things, not all rooms, but sometimes if you have like a mini bar or like they provide some snacks in there, not always included, very similar to like a hotel.
Not often included.
Not often. Maybe like the water bottles they might leave on the first day. But again, I think this has a lot more to do with depending what state room you're in. If you're just kind of like in a regular interior, they may not even put stuff like that in your room.
It's my understanding that even if you have a water package, if you drink the water in the mini bar, it's not included in the package. I mean,
right.
Just watch out for things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And even like another point, like when we said about the specialty dining and stuff, sometimes there's now like specialty like dessert bars or like an ice cream station or just like little sweet treats, different desserts than they'll have in the regular buffet. And a lot of times those are going to be additional costs as well.
Yeah, it used to be most of the cruise lines, if not all, would have like free pizza places kind of near the pool. But now some of them have started charging for that.
Yeah.
So,
or it's only part of like their like room service now.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the best pizza I've ever had has been on a cruise ship at some tiny little hole in the wall place near the pool. But you just got to, make sure that it's covered. And Carla, for you, childcare services.
Yes. So it really depends on the cruise line. Most of them are all really good at having like children's programs and, for different ages and stuff. But especially if you're doing something late at night and that's the time that you need service, sometimes there will be additional costs with that as well. And it also it could depend on the age of your child.
So they would have hours and you might have to hire a babysitter to go to a special formal night or show or something like that.
Correct.
So what about if I have a child and I want to go on an excursion? Am I allowed to go off the ship while my child is in the childcare? Or do I have to be nearby?
That's a good question. I don't know. I want to say no. I want to say no, you can't, because it doesn't sound like a good idea. And that sounds like a lot of liability for the cruise line. But I don't know that for a fact. I would even say that I think it's possible that sometimes on port days, those services are actually limited. I know that. So I think it's very dependent on the ship you're on and the cruise line.
Yeah. And definitely the age of the child. I mean,
that is
fun. My son was about 11 when I took him on his first cruise. And I believe it was Carnival. I'm not sure. And they had a preteen group, right? And he went there and he met a couple of kids. And I met a couple of moms. Okay. So we went to Ensenada. Okay. And it was not considered at that time a safe place. So the other mom and I left the kids on board. But again, they were 11 and 12. They had money for the, what do you call it? The arcade, which was really important to them. And, they just got involved in, they were not staying with us the whole time on the ship either. And they didn't really babysit.
Yes, definitely. I definitely at that age, at that point, they're not even with you at the time on the ship. I'm constantly seeing these little teenagers running around on their own.
Right. And my son was always very mature for his age as well. And he never really got in any trouble. So, I wasn't feeling unsafe with him being on the ship because he was staying on the ship. Now maybe as I've gotten older, I would worry more, but he's 35 now. So I make it a point not to worry about him being alone on a cruise ship. Right.
Yeah. My son's a lot younger. He's barely going to be 4. So I'm still in that mind state that if I'm not there, nothing's safe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I totally agree. I mean, when my son was that age, I couldn't take a nap during the day. I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, and I couldn't even take a nap because I was just so worried. And he never got into anything, but it was me. being so worried. What if something happened to him? What if he got into this? What if he somehow managed to get outside? What if this happened and that happened? So I totally get that. You can sleep later though, Carla. It'll happen. It'll come. And then the other thing I would think about is transportation to and from the port. I mean, you're going to have to pay for your flight in. You're going to have to drive to the port, whatever it is that you decide to do. Mm-hmm. And their airport transportation shuttles might not be included. Now, I know I have had them included before, but it was when the flight was booked through the cruise line, which I don't necessarily recommend.
I don't recommend that.
Back then.
Yeah. I do believe you can add that as a separate, not necessarily booked your airfare through the cruise line, but you can just book transportation from the airport to the port. But I still don't really recommend that because usually they try to line that up with, other people that purchase that as well. And so sometimes that can still be another very lengthy process of, either waiting or, even just the general boarding. If this is a group of, sometimes they charter buses. It's not like your typical little hotel shuttle where maybe a max of 15 people are going to get on. No, sometimes you're going to be in line with 50 people trying to get on. So sometimes just that amount
flights are in,
exactly
for other people to land,
Mm-hmm. So sometimes for those reasons alone, I say you're much better off just getting an Uber.
Oh yeah. And I agree. Getting an Uber is the way I've done it when I've flown in. A lot of times now I just like to drive to Galveston because it's so close and so many things go out of Galveston. And I'm a Caribbean type person, not so much, a snowbird. I mean, a snowbird maybe, but not so much Alaska. I'm more, Cancun than Alaska.
More than the beach.
But I still always go in the day before. And sometimes, though, you can stay at an Airbnb the night before. And they will have it worked out where you stay for that night. And then maybe the night after you come back and you can leave your car there the whole time. And they even give you a ride to the ship. I mean, that's a lot of places in Galveston are doing that, individual Airbnbs. So
yes. If it's a very, popular port and that's what they're used to, their clientele being coming in for cruises specifically. Yeah, there are definitely some hosts now that will accommodate you in those ways.
Can you think of any more onboard surprises? I think I'm pretty much tapped out.
I think that's the majority of my list also. Yeah.
So if you think of any, be sure to write it into the comments below because this is your cruise show, the Seize the Day cruise show powered by Travel with Brigitte, of course, which is your source for all things cruising. Feel free to comment because or ask a question because you are the one that this show is all about. Okay, so we're Carla and Julie, and on behalf of the entire team at Travel with Brigitte and the Seize the Day cruise show, till next week, seize the day.
You've been listening to the Seize the Day podcast, powered by Travel with Brigitte. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. And as always, feel free to ask us anything in the comments section. We love to hear from you. Or email us at bookings@travelwithbrigitte.com. Till next time, seize the day.